She was always very, very placid, very sweet, very content, liked to sleep a lot, which was good.
She loved simple things like reality TV. She was like obsessed. Awesome, awful programs like Eddie Stobart Trucks and Trailers, what was it called? She loved that.
Everything.
Was Love Island? Probably wasn't around back then, was it?
Whatever the equivalent.
She would have
was
loved
back
Love
then,
Island, basically. I think it must have been.
Emily, you know, she was forever young. She was always came across. She liked being, you know, young, carefree,
Ditzy.
bit ditzy, and family was the most important thing to Emily.
Yeah.
My memory of it, there's about 6 months, I think, where she was poorly before we got the diagnosis.
Emily started complaining about some symptoms that we couldn't kind of fathom. She was feeling low, almost like she had a virus that she couldn't get shot of. There was a cycle of her going to the doctor, being referred off to another specialist and so on and so forth. So our doctor said, well, you know, we've looked at everything, Emily. I think you should go and see an ear, nose and throat consultant. But we took it all in our stride. We didn't think there was anything sinister going on here at all.
No.
She went to see the ENT guy, said, there's nothing that's obvious here, but there's one thing I want to just check, and I want you to have an MRI scan.
She had to go and get the results from the doctor. She went on her own. Right away he said, it's very serious. You need to have this operated on right away. You've got something called a glioma. The next week was a whirlwind, as you can imagine.
Yeah, when you have the diagnosis, it's kind of like, okay, now it all sort of makes sense. But then it's obviously weird because so many people suffer with things like this. But when it actually happens to you, it's like, you almost sort of can't believe it. It's like, what has just happened?
We saw her neurosurgeon and
Yes.
a couple of other doctors.
Yes.
And he said, I'm sorry to tell you that we've had the result of biopsy and it's a glioblastoma multiforme. I remember asking, saying, so how long can you keep it going for? And he said, well, 1 year, maybe 2, if you're lucky. And I said, okay, thank you very much. And then we had to walk out of that room and go in and speak to Emily as if nothing had happened. So we decided, and I think it was the right thing at the time, she knew it was not great, but we decided she probably didn't want to know.
I think she just decided that she wanted to kind of take it one step at a time, take one day at a time. She used to always say that to us. It was just one step at a time.
You always think you're going to be the one that's going to get a lucky
Yes,
break.
I remember you used to say, well, someone has
Someone's
to win the
gotta-
lottery.
someone's got to win the lottery.
Win the lot. That's why I used to say. Didn't believe it until, you know, sort of the last few months, really.
Emily had 6 months after her initial treatment where she did pretty well, actually. Life got back to normal. She went back to work, she felt better. And then, of course, as we knew, something was going to happen. And sure enough, it did. It was then a process of, as I used to say, trying to hold back a tsunami, of fighting, giving a treatment, and then something coming back. Until eventually, we got to, as I said, about November, December 2016, and her oncologist...
And he said, didn't he, she's fighting an uphill battle.
She's fighting an uphill battle. So we then talked with him. We said, well, if this is the last shot, we want her to come home to die. And we discussed that as a family.
It was nice in a way because me and Harry were off work because it was actually the Christmas period. The good part of it was that we actually could be home quite a lot, so we got to spend those last few days as a family. Of course, though, just a mad, difficult time because it was over Christmas. So Emily died on the 3rd of January.
Yeah, and I remember one of the things that I really remember the most. On New Year's Eve, we were always kind of all by the bed when it went to midnight, all fireworks going off everywhere, and we were like in sort of Emily's room with her asleep, and it was such just a crazy feeling of like contradiction, and obviously, you know, thinking that all these people are out there enjoying and sort of we're in this situation.
I had a moment that I'll treasure for the rest of my life with Emily before she died, and I was just sitting with her, and she looked at me, and at this time she just could not speak. She looked at me and I looked at her, and I did a wave like this, and I said to her, I love you, and she just said to me, love you, and they were the last words she ever said to me. And I don't know how she found the words, but she did. And I will carry that with me for the rest of my life. So the Emily Morris Fund was started after Emily passed away.
Emily was always very colourful, loved jewellery. I thought, I'm going to make some Emily-style bracelets, and been raising money ever since, really.
We actually sought the advice of the Brain Tumour Charity and said, look, you know, we're raising this fund. We would like it to be used in the fight against glioblastoma, and they actually presented the work that Professor Carragher is doing up at the University of Edinburgh. We were really blown away by the work that he's doing and said this is something we absolutely must support.
So our project is to take a more systematic approach to identify new drugs and drug combinations that will target glioblastoma. The technology we have available to us allows to screen more drugs faster and in more disease-relevant models. So we think this will accelerate the pace of drug discovery research, but also deliver drugs that are not only more effective but also safer for the patients as well, with less side effects. And we're doing things now we just couldn't do 5 years ago.
We will find a cure for brain tumours. We are already finding what I call marginal significant gains that are improving the outcomes for people's quality of life. There's been things that the Brain Tumour Charity has innovated, like the use of 5-ALA in operations and getting it prescribed throughout the country. Of course, the evolution of DC-Vax is also a hugely exciting area. So funding research, and as it's done with the Brain Tumour Charity, wherever it needs to be in the world, by the best practitioners, by the best institutions, that is the lifeblood of finding a cure to this awful disease.
I feel Emily's all over our house. All the bits from her flat are now in my study. So everywhere we go, there's Emily bits here, bits there, which is lovely.
Whenever we talk about our family, it's always still as 5 people. We're not a family of 4.
Whenever we're at kind of a family dinner or a birthday or whatever, we'd always do a little toast to her and just make sure that she's remembered, really. I think that's the most important thing.